Matt, thank you very much for coming on and doing this.
Hello, Tim. Thank you for asking me. Pleasure.
Hey, I really appreciate it. How's your summer been?
Summer's been good. What little there was of it, in the UK, as you know. Yes, it's sort of. It just kind of came and went, really. Just really busy. We didn't really go away anywhere, so it was just a continuation of working, family stuff, and YouTubey things. So yeah.
Yeah. How's that going? How's YouTube going?
YouTube is tremendous, actually. It's great. It's a runaway hobby that's wildly out of control now. So, which is a good thing, but it's
Right.
it's very demanding. It's very time demanding. As you know, doing content just takes forever. The editing, thinking up ideas, learning songs, tabbing them out, and demos, and Instagram, and all the rest of it. But it's great, really. I think I'm up to, it's about 78,000 subs, something like that, and it's still growing nicely. So I think I get about
how much time?
About
how
18.
Much time do you spend on it?
Sorry.
How much time do you spend
I've
on it?
never actually sat down. If I actually sat down and worked it out and worked out how much sort of cash you get in from it, I would probably give it up instantly. But I never have, because it's always done in sort of like little chunks here and there, because I have a 9-to-5 job, pretty much 9-to-5 job, and then obviously there's the kids in the morning and after school, and they come back, and after I finish work, as you'll be aware of. So I generally do all the sort of YouTube stuff either in the evenings from about 8 o'clock or at the weekends. So I mean, every weekend for about the last, I don't think I've had a proper few days off for about 3 years. You know what I mean? It's full on, but it's kind of I could just do one video a week and not 3, but I've kind of got into the habit now of, I have Patreons that request songs, so there's an obligation to kind of meet their needs and fulfill their, what are they called? I can't even remember what the name of it is. Well, basically they get to request songs, right? So, and I have about 200 patrons. So, there's quite a bit to do there. I get demos fairly regularly. I do almost a demo a week-ish, something like that. There's a lot of work goes into those, because I don't just open the box and play with it. I try and dial in tones exactly to the ones that I want to represent in the demo. That takes time, and then I might do covers, various other bits and pieces. So it's full on. I mean, it's constant. It's absolute. I don't have any time where I do nothing in my life.
Yeah. Do you so when people request a song for you to learn, transcribe and upload it for them, do you ever feel like, do you know what, that's a song that's so far out there, that's such a deep cut of that song that's just not going to do any good for my channel?
Yeah.
But you feel but obviously you have to do it because they've paid you for it.
Well, they haven't paid me. What they pay for is there's a variety of tiers that you can do for the Patreon side of it. So I do get loads of requests on YouTube in the comments and stuff, which is brilliant. But I always just say, look, I'm never going to get to these. I've already got a massive spreadsheet of Patreon requests, so I have to kind of point people in that direction. But the patrons who are on the $10 a month tier, they can kind of request anything they want. But if it's going to be absolutely ludicrously low views, like something so random, which some do, then I wonder about this. I've always gone, you can just request anything and I'll put it on the channel, because I've got a day job, so I don't have to worry about the income it's going to generate when I put it on YouTube. So it allows me to take risks, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it's getting to the point where I am thinking, I should probably just maybe keep the focus to, it's not even it was a narrow focus of just Pearl Jam, but it's gone out into loads of other bands. And I'll always try once. So if it's a random band or a smaller band, as long as I think the music's cool, then I'll just do it and then see how it goes. So case in point, someone requested Christ, what was the song called? So someone requested Feed the Crawl by NHC, representing NHC here, right? Navarro, Hawkins and Cheney, right? Which was a little side project that that those three were put together, and it was awesome. And someone, as soon as it came out, someone messaged me and went, "You should do this one, Feed the Crawl. It's amazing." And I had listened to it because I didn't know it was out. I had listened to it and thought it's amazing, it's so cool. And I did it thinking it's a side project, right? The side projects are never going to be as attractive, for people. It's going to be a niche, a fairly niche interest. Much more so than if I were to go for a Foo Fighters tune or a Jane's Addiction tune or something like that, right? But I thought, oh, wicked, yeah, let's do it, see what happens. And because I did that, and the lesson initially didn't really get, it was way below average of what I would usually get, right? But it's the same amount of effort that you have to put in to produce whatever content, right?
Yes.
And, but if it hadn't have been for me doing that, Dave Navarro never would have reached out to me. So, how do you put that? And then from that, we ended up chatting quite a bit. And we've spoken several times. And in fact, he's actually sent me several videos now of him breaking down other songs, right? Because I said, I'm going to do a Dave Navarro week.
So
and
cool.
he messaged me again, we should do something. So he sent me these videos. It was brilliant of him. He's so generous with his time. He really is. Which is incredible, right? He's one of my absolute favourite guitarists, one of my idols from way back.
Yeah, same.
And if I hadn't have been able to take that risk, so let's say I have to make money from YouTube, that means that everything I put up on the channel, every minute I spend, I need to be thinking, where's the payday coming from this? Whereas in my current position, I don't. This is a hobby. It's a secondary thing. And if I do get, money for the effort that I put in, then cool, right? It mainly helps to self-perpetuate the channel, keep it running, keep it from costing me money. And same with gear, right? I tend to get sent a lot of gear. So that's great. I'd have to spend my money on gear or take away, money from the family to buy gear, right? So it fulfills all of that. But the main thing that the channel does is that, right? It offers things that you can't buy, like that experience and that relationship now with Dave is, it's priceless. And how would that ever have happened if I didn't have a YouTube channel? So those are the things that keep me going with it, really. So yeah, it's worth the effort. But I suppose
you could argue that that's. Yeah, I mean, you could argue that was your payday. That was how you earned from either that video or a series of videos that you did by building those networks and that little bridge and that relationship now.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's not a monetary thing. Do you know what I mean? It's a reward of that you can't place it. Like I couldn't go out and say, I want Dave Navarro to reach out to me and point out some, improvements I could make in some of the existing lessons I've done of his and get insight from, where do you go and buy that? There is nowhere you can get that, right? It's, it just wouldn't have happened. So that's amazing. And Guitar World covered it. So it had, there was a lot of stuff that came off the back of it, and Music Radar covered it. And then, later down the line,
nice.
I had Music Radar asked me if I would do some writing for them. So I did a little bit of, just 10 pieces for them. So other things, from that, they just spiral on from there, and I think someone, another company had heard that I'd done that. And then they said, oh, we want you to do some stuff for our newsletter with some gear related content. So yeah, it's just these sort of things that you do that you don't do intentionally, and they lead to other things. I think, which is cool.
I think when you do things like that, like when you don't focus on the money and you don't focus on how you're going to earn from it, and you focus on just doing something that either you love or you think that others will love and that has some value to it, that's actually where things start to snowball, and that turns it into a success.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I hated it, then I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't put as much effort into it, and the content would suffer as a result. I wouldn't bother, at making improvements, thinking how I could make it better for people. But because I love it, and then because I get feedback, it does help. I mean, if I was putting out content and I was only getting like 50 views on every YouTube video, then I would have probably given up, a while back. But because it's growing still, and I get some amazing comments from people who say that it's inspired them to pick up the guitar, usually after years of not playing it. I think because of the type of music I do, although there is a broad range from, 18 to sort of late 50s in terms of the demographics of, the age demographics of who watches the channel. A lot of people are saying, I haven't played for years. I saw one of your videos that inspired me to pick up a guitar again, and I'm playing it. Other people have said they've had like medical issues or issues with depression or whatever, and they've found that getting back in touch with the guitar via the videos has given them that sort of that anchor, in their life again, which is just incredible to hear. Like, when you think, wow, someone's like, because it's just me and a camera in this room, right? It's difficult to think of, I spend a lot of my time talking in a room by myself, to myself, right? But when you put it out there, then obviously you hope that you connect with some people at least, and then they are often, I mean, a lot of the people who follow the channel are very kind with their comments and feedback and stuff. I very, very rarely get, these drive-by sort of, nastiness that the channels I've seen get. And I read every comment, I reply to every comment as best I can. But some of them really do stick out as, wow, that's like made a difference to someone. And that's lovely. That's cool. That's, again, beyond the monetary benefit, because it gives you a bit of a shot in the arm to keep going and think, yeah, wicked, it's helping people. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's the cornerstone of doing anything. I mean, if you look at it like a business, I think that's the cornerstone of doing good business, is making sure that what you offer is, of value and is worthwhile, and you enjoy it, and it brings, some joy or happiness to others.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there has to be a market for what you're offering on YouTube, because there's so much content out there now. And I would consider myself an average guitar player. I wouldn't consider myself like a professional guitar player, or even particularly, well skilled really in theory, in teaching. I mean, if I haven't had like thousands of students in person and worked through, like if I was to start teaching one of my kids how to play guitar, I'd say go find a proper guitar teacher. All I can teach them is like grunge songs and alternative rock songs, right? So I wouldn't know where to start really in terms of that. Right. I'm sure I could figure it out, but you know what I mean? That is not.
It's easy enough.
My profession, and it is a profession. Just got to stay one page ahead of the kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it's always been amazing to me that that people, really responded favourably to it, and that it got the or it's had the success that it's had and continues to do so, which is amazing. But one of the things that I do love to do is working out the tunes as close as possible as I can. So that is like one USP, if you like, right? And I didn't think of it as a USP. I just thought of it as that's what I'd like. So generally, that's how I started. just working out the songs, getting all the finite little, all the, minuscule little details that are sometimes missed. And then I moved into, I really love getting the exact sound. Because I think as guitar players, you're always told, find your voice, find your own sounds. And for a lot of us, and me included, I don't really have one. I mean, I tried over the years in the original bands and stuff, and I just thought, I don't think I really have one. What I like doing is sounding like other bands that I love. That I get so much pleasure from just playing along with, with my idols. Do you know what I mean? Just in headphones, right? Which is perfect for me. So I think having all those little snippets and little details in has helped. And then that led to people wanting live versions. So Pearl Jam fans, especially, as you know, they are, sort of fiercely, loyal and knowledgeable, and they love all the live stuff. And so they want to be able to play. How did Mike play the even flow solo at this gig? This exact version, because he'll mix it up every night, right? So that's been quite interesting too, because where can you go to get those sorts of transcriptions? You're not going to find them. You're going to get the one off the album, and that's it. So so that's been quite good. So we just bounce from one idea to the next, really. I'm constantly thinking about stuff that I should be doing, but it's always time that's gets in the way.
Yeah. I tell you one thing that I think that you do, which is exceptional, and I think you just touched on this. I think our connection's a little bit shaky, so I missed some things. Is when you and I were playing, and we'd come into rehearsals and we've learnt all the songs and we'd go through everything and we'd start rehearsing, we'd start going through it and we finish it, and then you'd come up and you'd say something like, that riff, the second verse, the second time round on that repeat, change, it's different. It's slightly different. He plays that C sharp, not a D this time round. I'm like, really? Like, yeah. And you listen back to it, you fucking hell, he's right. Like, how the hell did you hear that?
You're like, Christ, he's so anal.
Yeah, and that has obviously bled into your channel. And when I look at the transcriptions that you've done for some of the songs, when we were doing them together, and I'd look at yours after I'd finished, we both uploaded, I'd look at yours and go, son of a bitch, I've missed that. I've missed that little lick. I've missed that riff. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to compete with Matt on this kind of level, because he's so meticulous and he's so analytical. Like even down to things like the tunings. It's like, no, I'm playing it in standard tuning. No, on the record. No, he plays it in open C. Like, oh, I can play it. And I was like, no, okay, so I'm going to have to think of something else to do that doesn't compete directly with Matt, because he's just crushing it and I just look like a fool. But I guess that goes back to what you were saying.
Thanks, man.
You're more interested in nailing every single note, whereas when I listen to music, I'm like, okay, it's roughly, it's like an A minor, it's a G, there's a little pull-off thingy, little riff there, I'll make my own little thing up over that. And that goes back to when I first started learning guitar. The first teacher I had, whenever it got to a guitar solo, he was like, look, just kind of get the bare bones of it. This is the scale or the mode that they're using. Try and get, like, if there's anything really important, get that, but always try and put your own spin on it. Do your own little thing. And that's how I would learn and transcribe solos. Like, I'll get the main bulk of it, like if I have to do it for a show. Unless the MD or the artist has said, I want you to learn this note for note, I'll learn it note for note. But otherwise, it's 80% and then it's 20% of whatever I want to put in, just to make my life a little bit easier.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you're like in a position where you're depping and stuff, that approach is way more appropriate. And equally, like you say,
yes,
you're going to learn far more from making up your own solos over something than just having all you've got in your toolbox is, I know how they play it, and that's it. And you can't really veer from that. Then you're kind of locked in there. And if you forget a bit of it, where do you go? You don't know. We don't know. Yeah, you have no basic underlying framework.
Yeah, I know a few players that do that. They'll learn something note for note, but then when you ask them, actually, no, instead of doing 8 bars, you've got to do 16 bars because the drummer's just put a stick through his snare drum and needs to replace it. Just keep looping it and be like, all I can do is just play the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You want me to play the same
learning
solo twice?
yeah, yeah. I think learning people's solos is great, but I think that's less than half of the lesson. I think there's what are the ideas behind it? What are the note choices? What scale is he using or she using?
Yeah, totally. And there's a lot of channels that already do that very well. So I just wouldn't compete with that because I just think, I might do, I did like a Gad Dad, an open tuning, how you can write songs in open tuning just as a fun thing.
Yeah.
That was really good. That was a great exercise for me as well because it got me out of my, my usual comfort zone as well.
Yeah, it's fun to play in open tunings because you don't know what you're doing, so you have kind of childlike innocence come back. Like, well, I'm just going to figure it out and play something by. Well, that sounds quite nice. I don't know what it is, but it sounds quite nice.
Totally, yeah. Well, you'd go to places that you wouldn't normally go to. It's like anything. I think even if I pick up a different guitar, I'll approach writing riffs differently. Some guitars will just, I don't know, they just make you want to go, oh, that needs to be in drop D, and now I need to do a load of single fingered power chords. Become Soundgarden.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, oh man, if only we could that would be. I think everyone would be happy. So, so how long have you been doing it? How long have you been playing music? How did you get into it?
So I probably started when I was about 14, 15, something like that. I think I had a guitar bought for me. I'd done like piano lessons when I was a lot younger, but I hated it because I just didn't want to practice. Yeah. Now, obviously, I wish I would have stuck to it. I'd love to be able to play the piano properly.
We'll come back to that.
So I think about 14, 15 was when I got my first guitar.
Okay.
It was a Marlin Sidewinder, so some cheap import guitar with that, but it had a whammy bar, and I remember I had it for a year, and all I did for the first year was just dive bomb. I did nothing else, I'd take it out of the cupboard, do a dive bomb, and then chuck it back in the cupboard. And that was it. And then,
how's your practice going? Really good. I'm nailing those dive bombs.
Yeah, but my parents, it was something I wanted. I think I asked for it. I just thought I want to play the guitar. I was well into like metal back then, so I was well into like Metallica and Anthrax, thrash metal basically, and thought, I want to do that. And then, got a guitar, got some lessons. I had lessons, but the lessons that I got from a really great teacher called John Rodge back in Wales. This was, and he was a fingerstyle acoustic player and electric player, really good blues player, but a very good fingerstyle player. So he didn't use a pick. And so I was going there going, why am I hammering out like, these like blues shuffles and 12-bar blues like things while you solo over them? I just didn't get it initially because I just thought, well dull. It's just a really boring exercise. And I couldn't connect that to the music that I loved. I couldn't see how that got bridged into that. And I was thinking, I want to play with a load of really fast down picks like Hetfield, Why would I want to play with my fingers? You don't get any sort of like, why would you do that? And now, obviously, fast forward into the future where you actually know a little bit more than you do it, when you're a kid. I'd love to be able to play that fingerstyle because, look at people like Chris Buck, the amount of feel and you can get into your playing. And one of my favourite guitarists is John Koneski, right? He's a huge like finger picking guy, and it just means you can do a lot more stuff effortlessly. But I don't have it, so I wish I'd have done that. But anyway, I guess kids, young bands, at school, and that was it.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate.
That's cool. No, that's fine. I think, like I said, the connection's a little bit shaky. So if you were to, let's say if you were to go back to your 15-year-old self, what advice would you pass on to him?
I'd probably tell him to, like, pay attention to his
musically.
to his teacher. I mean, yeah, I would tell him to stick with the piano, and you'll like that one day. But I wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
This is the problem. I can go back and give him all the advice I want. I
Yeah,
try
I
it with
know.
my kids,
Yeah.
and they're just not ready to listen. You can't. It's very difficult to remember yourself back then, and myself back then was I know it all. Why would I listen to some old guy telling me what to do? Be that my parents or a teacher with years of experience. You just don't. You can't. You've got to be very mature, I think, if you can take that stuff on. And I definitely wasn't. And I don't know that it would make any difference if I did.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would change anything.
Yeah, I do the same.
I think if
with
I
my daughter. Yes. I do the same with my daughter and her piano lessons. She's like, why do I have to practice? I'm like, look, don't think of it as practice. Think of it as playing. Just go in there and just play something. I don't care what you play. Just go and play. And she's like, I don't want to. I don't want to. It's like, you know what? If you stick with it when you're 30, you will thank me. You will thank me and you'll pay me back in droves.
Yeah.
And she just doesn't want to listen. All right. How about this? If you had to relearn guitar, let's say you broke your left hand and you had to relearn left-handed, how would you teach yourself to get yourself back up to kind of where you are?
I think I would probably approach it in the same way. I mean, I would kind of go with, learning the basic chords that you always learn, those open chords. Then once you nail those, move to bar chords. And then once you've got bar chords, you're away, really, aren't you? And once you've nailed some of those bar chords, you can kind of play most things. But I don't think that I would do it much differently to that, really. I can't think of anything radical that would make me, change my playing, because I when I was a kid, I was always happy to spend time doing it because I enjoyed it. And I think if you've got that, then you generally will improve. Whereas if, like with the piano, because I hated practicing that, and I had to do it in such a in a bit of a regimen. You got to learn this piece. It was grades. You got to learn this piece and you've got to play that one. I just didn't relate to it, and I just thought it just feels like work. So I don't know. There's not one specific thing that I would tell myself in terms of a golden nugget of wisdom to learn. But I guess an important thing was playing with other people, for sure, because once you start playing, if you're just in your bedroom the whole time, and that's great, and there's a massive generation of like YouTube and sensational guitar players on Instagram and TikTok and all the rest of it that are just insanely good, very technical. But it's all quite short form sort of content. I don't know if you would want to listen to that for like an entire, gig, and how that would translate to when you're, playing with other people. So that's one of the best learning experiences. Just go out and play with people who are better than you. Because I think when I was about 15, 16, there were some older kids that asked me if I wanted to play with them, and they were like 18, 19, so they were all like drinking and smoking and stuff. My dad would drop me around their flat, right, and they'd all be smoking and whatever, and I was just like this little kid, really. But that was brilliant. That was really, really good fun, and it was just really cool to play in a band and do gigs, with these older kids, because it just opened up these new experiences. And it's very different, playing with people in terms of like even when like we played like together, I was not used to playing much like bigger venues, and when you start to get into we're being mic'd up now, and the sound that I've spent ages at home getting just right, that doesn't work now, because why am I not cutting through in the mix? And then you start to learn about mids, which how do you learn about that unless someone tells you, or unless you've seen a YouTube video about it, about the importance of it, because you just disappear in the mix. So all of that was you can't know that until you sort of go out there and play live, which is cool.
Or you get
I'd encourage
or you get a sound engineer that sticks a broken old shitty microphone on your cab to amplify you through a room that gets then put through a really old 1970s PA system, and you listen back to it, that just sounds fucking awful. Yeah, those are the things you just can't help.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does. It's a whole new
And you
whole
can't
new
control.
world
It's
when
outside
you
of your
start
control,
playing
isn't
with.
it?
Yes, yeah, but playing with others, especially people who are better than you, I think that's just one of the greatest learning curves, and just getting out there on stage and making as many fuck ups as you can.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's one other thing about playing live as well, which you just can't, learn, is the sort of the showmanship element of playing live. I mean, the amount of, like, when you're kids and you're in your teens, you're kind of self-conscious anyway, and you're playing up there, and you're not, you're really concentrating to not screw up, but you're not thinking about, let's put on a show. Yeah. I mean, look at Tenacious D. I mean,
the
that
last thing.
All show is just incredible, backed by incredible musicians. I mean, it's like the full package, right? And loads of other, bands as well, right? But I think when you're, it's very difficult to show how much you're enjoying it when I'm talking about as like a teenager, because you're very self-conscious, I think, when you're that age, and you don't really, you just don't have the confidence, to kind of go, I'm going to put on a show for you guys, unless you're a very, very talented and more mature type. But I definitely wasn't. For us, it was all like, we loved it, but we were all like head down, stood in one place, and when you watch them, and like as a kid, you're going to, like, you've got a VHS video of recording of it or whatever, and you watch it back and you go, it looks kind of dull, doesn't it?
Yeah. But that, again, that's something that just comes with practice.
You can only learn it. Exactly.
Yeah. You've got to get out, and I think there reaches a stage where, like, if somebody once told me that if you can play something in your bedroom, as soon as you transfer that to the stage, you're already cutting off about 20% of your ability. As soon as you stand on stage in front of you, it's like 20% is just gone already. The more nervous you get, that 80% just starts to diminish until you're at a stage where you're not going to be able to play it. So the idea of getting over that. I mean, things like stage fright. Yeah, overthinking, stage fright. I mean, I know people that have been playing for 20 years that still get stage fright. I don't know how they go and perform with it, because I sort of managed to alleviate I used to alleviate it through drinking, and then when I stopped drinking, it was then just this massive mental battle. Like, all right, look, you've been playing for 20 years. You're a grown up. You're playing to people who've paid to come and see you. Don't stare at the floor. Don't look at your neck. Don't look at you got to start. And somebody once told me, just play to the back of the room. Just stand up and just stare at the back of the room, because at least then your head's up. And then just start to look around. Oh, she's quite cute. Oh, that guy's got a Soundgarden t-shirt. I can see the sound engineer. There's still people coming in through the door. And when you start to do that, all of a sudden your fear and the anxiety just starts to disappear. And you don't have to perform drunk either, which is a lot easier.
Yeah, well, which, because then you've got the misunderstanding or the misconception that, after about 3 or 4 pints, I'm way more confident and therefore I'm better. But you're not. I mean, as soon as you, like, one drink doesn't make you better, at playing. It gives you that sort of, the Dutch courage, settling the nerves. But there's no way it makes you, a better player. But, like you say, it's one of those things you've got to, if you've never played live, you'll never know what stage fright is, and therefore you'll never be able to develop the tools to get over it.
Yeah. Yes. The other thing I always wanted to touch on, I ask everybody this, is there a stage where you realise that music means something to you, or means more to you than it does to most other people?
So I don't know that I ever thought that it meant more to me than other people, but I definitely remember when it hit home that it was an important thing for me personally. And
Yeah.
one of my earliest memories is listening to
What was
Metallica's
that
Master
thing?
of Puppets. So I was listening to Metallica's Master of Puppets. It was one of the first proper albums that I bought. In fact, I bought it on cassette, I think. I bought that and Motley Crue's Theatre of Pain. And I listened to Master of Puppets, and it was just the overall sound of the album, the production, the sound of the guitars. And I had headphones on. I was sat behind my sofa at my parents' place, and that clicked. Something, just changes in you, and you just think, what's this that I've just discovered? This is incredible sound that does something visceral to me, and that was the moment, I think. But we'd listened to their music before, but it was that just sticks out as a really superb memory. And then listening to the radio of like Donington, because they used to broadcast, Monsters of Rock and all that sort of stuff. So listening to all that was just amazing, because you couldn't really get it. It wasn't on radio. We still don't have radio stations here that play decent, rock music. Certainly not.
I mean, I think that the death of radio is pretty much upon us. I cannot remember the last time I listened to radio. If I listen to radio, I usually listen to LBC. If I want to listen to music, there's absolutely no need for me to listen to the radio, because I've got to trawl through hours of shit I don't want to listen to, overconfident, loud and noisy DJs who are just like in your face. And I was like, no, I would rather listen to nothing than listen to that. So I just think radio is one of those things that's on its way out, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of it, to be honest. It's all Spotify, isn't it, now? I mean, that's the other side of it, right? I mean, there's no physical product anymore, right? It's, Spotify's awful for artists. So, I mean, if someone was starting out in music now, I don't know what sort of advice they'd be getting. I mean, because how are you supposed to make a living out of it when really there's no, it seems to be impossible to make a lot of money out of it unless you're right at the very, I think the people who are able to make a career out of it is getting smaller and smaller as a sort of traditional, band or, artist.
Well, I think one of the things that has to change, I think Spotify's got us, and other streaming services have to start paying artists more per stream.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But they'll just pass that on
Because
to consumers, right?
It's... Well, yeah. I mean, I think we're in an age where music's become so cheap. I mean, what's Spotify? £10 a month?
Yeah.
I think I'm on 10, £12 a month.
Free. It's free, isn't it? Essentially.
It's free. So things like vinyl have made a huge resurgence, which I think is good. And I bought 2 albums this year from friends who've released albums. I don't have a record player, but I thought the best way for me to support them is to buy physical copies of their music. And then what I do is I then just listen to it on YouTube, or I listen to it on Spotify. But I think people have been getting music for free, essentially. And I think something's going to have to shift, because it's not really sustainable to pay artists fractions of pennies for streaming their music.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and so what's next? What's next on the horizon for you?
More of the same. So loads more YouTube content planned. Got lots of lesson ideas, demos. So I work with quite a lot of brands, and that keeps to be increasing, which is awesome. Like Guild reached out to me recently to see if I'd like to do a demo for Kim Thile's new signature guitar, which is just amazing.
Oh, nice.
So that's great. So, and that was they approached me, so that's just superb. So that seems to be going in the right direction. Also got I'm working on some pedals with Andy from Funny Little Boxes. So we've released the skeleton key recently, which is great. Love that thing. And so that's great fun. And that is really us just going, this would be cool, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And, and then it becomes a physical thing and people buy it and then they message you to say they love it and how it's, how it's really, enriched their lives, even in a small way, right? So
nice.
More of that.
Cool.
And
any chance you'll be back on stage?
I haven't got time to do any live music at all. I would love to.
Yeah.
At some point. Yeah, I'd love to get back to that at some point, but it's just impossible. I don't know that I'd ever be going, traveling around the UK, like we did, being away for weekends and stuff, just because of the kids. Really, they're they're not young for long, and I definitely couldn't do that. But yeah, I might sort of, if I could do something local, or now and again, then yeah, for sure. But not at the moment.
Did the other thing I was going to ask? Do you ever feel like resentful for music, for you being almost like a job now for you, especially with things like YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sometimes I don't know if I don't resent it. I sometimes I don't resent the whole thing, but sometimes I'm thinking, I got to work out this one solo, which I know is going to take me ages, and I don't look forward to it. And then once it's done, I'm like, oh, good, thank God for that. So sometimes it does feel like work, but it's all self. I put it all on myself. No one's really forcing me to do it. I could just stop if I wanted to. But I'm really keen to see where it goes. So that just keeps driving me. So for the most part, yeah, I don't. It's a fun thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are elements of it that are just grind and work. Like I've just created a second, a side hustle job, outside of what that I do in my free time, where most other people would be, doing whatever they want. I mean, I'm limited in some ways as to what I can do, because I've signed up to say, yes, I will do these songs this week, or I'm definitely doing this demo, because you have like release dates of demos come along from companies, and generally you want to release on that day because they requested, please, can you do it at this time on this day? And so, you're locked in. There are deadlines that have to be met. But you just need to plan, really. I think as long as I plan, and I just don't, and I plan sensibly. So if I've got a demo coming up, I know is going to take a bit of time to get used to whatever piece of equipment it is, then maybe that's not the week to also be doing a really complicated 2-guitar, multiple solo, tune. So then I just schedule it so that I don't do that week. I do it a bit later. So it's just about getting a bit of a balance to it, really. Still figuring it out there.
When do you have time to see your kids and your wife?
Who I don't really. Yeah,
you don't. Is that how you? Why you planned it like this?
I'm briefly aware that other people live in the house with me. I see them occasionally. No, I just like I say, I do it generally when the kids go to bed. So and with me and my wife, it's very much like it's like I'll still try to do some of the school runs. I mean, I do get flexibility with my day job, so I can work from home, which is great. I get to see the kids that way. But yeah, it's just planning it, really. And then at the weekends, as long as I'm saying I need a chunk of 3 hours where I can get a load of stuff done, and then and I try and get like a load of recording done in that one window. I don't just do record one, edit one, do all the B-roll. You know what I mean? I do one load of that, and then I'll do one load of another thing, and then I can get it into batches and then schedule it and get it get it, up in time. Because obviously, if you go away on holiday, I still manage to sort of try and keep up with it, but you've got to just get a few weeks ahead of yourself, which kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'm still like editing stuff on Thursday night that's got to be, sent out on Friday or whatever, or I'm still, adding finishing touches to it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, it sounds like, man, I don't know how you do it. Like when I was doing it during lockdown, I would struggle to do one a week. And you're kicking out 3 a week, plus you're doing all your Instagram stuff, and man, but it's like I've said to you in the past, it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see like the people that have reached out to you, such as Dave Navarro and Nick Offerman is now following you. It's incredible. It's really good to see it happen. It couldn't happen to a nicer person.
Oh, well, thank you, Tim. Much appreciated, mate.
Cool. I think we shall leave it there.
All right, mate. Nice one.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time, fitting me in between all of your YouTube videos and whatever else you got going on. I do really, really appreciate it, and we will speak soon.
Cool, man. Appreciate you for asking me on. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you.
See ya.
Right. I think that's stopped.
And cut.
Yeah.